I'm joined by Jagmeet Singh, member of the House of Commons and leader of the NDP in the House of Commons. We've got a lot going on in Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau from the Liberal Party just announced his resignation. His government was held together by an alliance, tenuous one, with the NDP. Mr. Singh, you had called for his resignation. A few weeks later, he did indeed resign. First and foremost, I want to welcome you to the Midas Touch Network. We had some other NDP members on, but welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and excited to be here. Thanks so much.
You know, when Donald Trump was elected and he first started attacking Canada, there was a lot of confusion, I think, within Canada about how to respond, but not from you. You immediately responded right away and said, "You will not bully us." And after that, I thought it gave others the confidence, because you're seeing it now with a lot of other politicians out there in Canada who are saying that. But Donald Trump has been relentless. Just yesterday, he made the following post as well, once again referring to Canada as the 51st state. And he said that Canadians would love for Canada to be the 51st state and that this is something that they want. What a great nation it would be, essentially, if the United States conquers Canada. I want to get your response to that. For those who don't know you too, you got a background in jiu-jitsu. You went to law school. You got a great story that we'll get into a little bit later as well. But one, standing up to Trump in the first place, but two, your overall reaction to this barrage of threats from the United States, from Trump specifically, not all of us, against Canada.
Well, I would say, first off, Donald Trump is acting more like an internet troll than a president of the United States. I don't think that's the way you act as a president, and it's certainly not the way you interact with other countries. But as I mentioned, I've dealt with bullies throughout my life, and I know what it's like. Even if you're the smaller guy, even if you're outnumbered, you got to make it not worth the bully's while. Bullies only understand strength. They only understand strength and pain. So you have to make sure you're standing up and showing that if you want to take that decision to fight with us, to pick a fight with us, it's going to hurt you too. And so I want to issue a challenge actually on your show today. For anyone that's running for prime minister, I've committed that Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs. If Trump imposes tariffs on Canada, we should respond with tariffs. That's how you respond to a bully. You got to respond with strength. So my challenge is, for anyone else out there who's running to become prime minister, I want you to also commit, so that Donald Trump knows that anyone in Canada who gets that position will respond with a tariff, with tariffs in kind, fighting fire with fire, showing that we're ready to stand up to a bully.
You know, you have this Maple MAGA thing going on in Canada, as it's been referred to, embodied in the Conservative Party there, led by their opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre. You know, Pierre Poilievre recently went on this far right-wing podcast by Jordan Peterson, where he seemed to mock all of the social programs in Canada, from healthcare to dental to pharma, and started saying it's a way that distribution goes from people who don't have a lot of money to the people in power. In other words, that the social programs in Canada are benefiting the wealthiest and not the people. It seems to be the message that he was spewing on Jordan Peterson. And before, and you've confronted him about this, you know, he seems to be someone who's more supportive of our failed healthcare system here in the United States. Let me just show this brief portion of that interview from the Jordan Peterson podcast. The fact that he was on that podcast, to me, says a lot in and of itself. But what he said, you know, I thought was horrifying as an American. I wonder what, you know, Canadians think about this. Let's play this clip.
So there's socialist policies that provide goods and services to Canadians, let's say, or denizens of other countries, by printing money, actually punish the poor brutally.
Oh, absolutely.
In consequence of the inflation that they generate.
Yes. I mean, all the socialist policies in practice redistribute from the working class to the super wealthy in practice.
Mm-hmm.
What's your response to him being on that show, what he said on that show, and what's your message to Canadians, especially as we're in this pro-rogue period, and I assume there'll be elections, you know, sometime after March?
Yeah, there certainly is going to be elections soon. First of all, it's ridiculous what he's saying. But let's be really clear what he's saying. He has said this again and again. So he is making the case to cut healthcare. He is saying that we need to privatize and cut everything in our country. He is saying that healthcare is bad. He is saying that dental care is bad. He is saying that pensions are bad, that employment insurance. What he is saying is all the things that actually help out the working class are bad. And he's going to cut them. So for someone in Canada right now, back to the question of why we don't want to be part of the States, I can assure you Canadians don't want the American style system where if you get a heart attack or God forbid you get a cancer diagnosis, you end up going bankrupt. That never happens in Canada. You do not go bankrupt for an illness in Canada. We've got protections in place. If someone loses their job, there's employment insurance. So you get a little bit of support so you can get back on your feet and find a new job. You get some income supports. He wants to cut that. Seniors in Canada get a pension. You spend your life here, you get a pension at the end of the day, and that pension is stable, it's solid. I think it should be higher, but there is a pension and seniors rely on it. He came out and said he wanted to cut that, one of his first ideas. So for Canadians listening, know that Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives, want to cut the things that you need. It's going to hurt you, and the only ones that it benefits to cut healthcare is the super rich. To cut pensions is the super rich that benefit from that. Pensions help the working class. Not having pensions benefits those who are super rich, but it hurts the workers. It hurts the working class. And so what he is proposing is to hurt working class people, is to hurt middle class people. And I want Canadians to know I'm going to fight back against that. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to protect the things that we have and make them better, make them stronger.
Before Trump won the election and started doing all of these threats against Canada, and frankly, even before Prime Minister Trudeau resigned, if I were to even talk to some of my Canadian buddies, somewhat off the record or just as friends, they would think, though, look, it's likely that this guy is going to win, Pierre Poilievre. And there seemed to be, I don't want to call it defeatist because I don't want to project an America-centric view of my conversations with Canadians, but there seemed to be a fait accompli that Canada is just going to be pulled into this Maple MAGA thing, and that inevitably that's where it's being just drawn into. And I would say, but I just spoke to Jagmeet Singh, and he's saying this guy's so clearly articulating things that to me would go against foundational principles in Canada. So what am I missing here as are people really going to vote for this guy? Do people I've seen this guy speak on the House floor. He's obnoxious. He gets kicked out. He seems to be everything that cuts against my American view of Canada. So what do you think's going to happen? I mean, can this guy be stopped? Can the Conservative Party truly be stopped after this prorogue period ends?
Yes. And I want to, this is an important thing because I think you're right. I think there are some people that are losing hope and people that are feeling like, what can I do? And that sense of helplessness might be setting in for some folks. So I want to speak directly to those folks. When you are feeling worried, deeply worried, maybe afraid that Pierre Poilievre is going to cut the things that you believe in, cut healthcare, cut pensions, that dental care program that I fought for, that brought in over 1 million people were able to get their teeth fixed. Millions of people are signed up to this program. He wants to cut that as well. For folks that are worried and maybe afraid of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, I want you to know that we are building a movement. That for folks that are afraid of the Conservatives and people who feel let down by the Liberals, you feel let down because the Liberals promised to do things and they said they were going to get things done and they didn't do it. So you feel let down by the Liberals. Stand with us. We are building a movement, and together we can fight and we can win. While Pierre Poilievre is ahead in the polls, it's a serious challenge. He's at 40%. That means 60% of Canadians still don't want him. If we come together, if we organize together, if we fight, we can win. And I know Canadians believe in a universal healthcare system. They believe in our system. They want it to be stronger. They don't want to see it cut. Well, Pierre Poilievre wants to cut it. So anyone who wants to protect our healthcare system, join us. For anyone out there that thinks pensions should be there and should be even stronger, join us. We're fighting back to protect your pensions. So I want to make that message to Canadians. We are fighting back. And for the first time in a decade, we have pulled ahead of the governing party. if we come together, we can fight back against conservatives. We can stop them from cutting the things that you believe in and you love so dearly.
You know, one of the things you see with far right-wing movements internationally, same thing here in the US, probably Canada, you know, everywhere, is this divide and conquer approach, though, because they can use wedge issues to divide people, but sometimes the default ends up being picking really flawed and harmful people who are actually attacking you. So I see you on Canadian media appearances, and often you get asked the question, which is basically like, well, you know, what could the NDP be doing here? Is it forming alliances again with the Liberal Party? I mean, you've been asked, well, look, you know, you called for Trudeau's resignation and to basically disband the government. That led to his resignation. Does that fall into the hands of the far right? Does that fall into the hands of Pierre Poilievre? And you get asked that a lot. So and oftentimes you get cut off when you're trying to give your answer when I've been watching Canadian media. But if you can explain that, because some people are saying, well, look, we don't want Pierre Poilievre. We didn't like Trudeau, but now what do we do? So what do you say to those people? You have to hear that a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure we do, for sure. Well, I think ultimately people right now are feeling like life has gotten worse. And I think this applied to the States as well. I think people are attributing a shift left, right, to what is just people looked at their lives and said at the end of 4 years in the States, 9 years in Canada, that their life is worse off. It's more expensive to buy groceries, more expensive to find a home. Things are more costly. Salaries haven't kept up. People are really feeling squeezed. And they thought, this guy might make my life more affordable. And so I want to make sure people know very clearly, if you are a working class person, if you are a middle class person, if you're a middle class family, that Pierre Poilievre is going to cut things and make life even more expensive. And if you think about the things that are actually driving up your cost of living, the cost of your groceries, well, Pierre Poilievre, his chief advisor, Jenny Byrne, widely known, that's his chief advisor. She runs a lobby firm and she is the chief lobbyist for the biggest corporate grocery store in Canada. So do you think she will let Poilievre ever take on the greed of these big corporate grocery stores that are ripping you off? No. We know that the housing market in Canada is amazing for rich investors, big developers. They make lots of money in Canada. But it's not working for a working class family. It's not working for a senior. It's not working for a young person that graduates even with a good job. They cannot find a home. It's impossible. You think Pierre Poilievre is going to fix that? Well, his chief advisor, Jenny Byrne, is also a chief lobbyist for the biggest corporate landlords in Canada. So they're not going to fix the problems that you're up against. And so I would say to people, if you're worried about the cost of groceries, if you're worried about the cost of a home, if you're worried about building a good life, Pierre Poilievre is going to do everything in his power to make it even harder for you to help out his rich friends. We are committed to taking on those greedy CEOs. I'm committed to fighting back against folks that are ripping you off. I want to change the housing market so it works for you, for working class people, not for a rich investor, not for a developer, but it works for a family. It works for a young person. It works for a senior. We can do these things. And my message is, the way we do it is we come together. I know folks have voted different ways in the past. Maybe you voted Liberal in the past. Maybe you voted Green Party in the past. For people that are looking for some hope, I ask you to stand with me this time. Stand with us this time, and together we can come together and fight back, and we can win.
Talking about the friends of Pierre Poilievre, Elon Musk seems to be amplifying the interview with Jordan Peterson and everything Conservative Party over and over again. To see kind of foreign intervention in your elections so brazenly like this. I want to get your thoughts on that and your message to the Canadian people there. We're seeing this internationally, though, right? I mean, we're seeing Elon Musk with the Reform Party in the UK, right, with the AFD in Germany. There's not a far right-wing party that this guy, Elon Musk, is not propping up. Even more far right-wing than even Nigel Farage is like, all right, you're getting a little too far there, which tells you a lot. But it's that alliance that Musk is trying to create, right, with Poilievre, AFD, Reform Party, MAGA, and bring this together to help the billionaires and the oligarchs. Do I have that right? Or what's your response as Canadians are seeing? Why is Elon Musk coming into Canada? Why is he messing with us?
Yeah, it's a great point. I would break it into two parts. First part is who appeals to, or who Elon Musk is working with, or who is he spending his time with? It is clear he's on the side of billionaires. He's on the side of CEOs. I made the case that his chief advisor is also a chief lobbyist for the wealthiest corporations. Well, you also look at what Pierre Poilievre has done in the past 2 years. He has met with over 100 corporate lobbyists. He has spent his time with the wealthiest in Canada doing private fundraisers in multi-million-dollar mansions. So it's very clear who he is setting himself up with. He is on the side of the billionaires. He is on the side of those tech bro billionaires in Canada. And it's clear that Elon Musk falls in that same camp. Billionaires who want governments to make laws that benefit them, make them even more money, and hurt the working class. So that's one side of it. And the second side of it is the foreign interference. Well, in Canada, there was clear allegations of foreign interference brought by our RCMP, like the FBI in the States. Our RCMP is the federal police agency, brought forward, and as well as our version of the CIA, CSIS, brought forward clear allegations of foreign interference, directly touching the Conservative Party of Canada. Not just the party, but also the leadership race in which Pierre Poilievre was selected. Despite that, knowing that, he refused to get security clearance to review the documents and the information about the allegations of foreign interference. So foreign governments, foreign countries interfering in his party specifically, in his leadership race specifically. The allegations were they tried to support a favored candidate. He refused to get the security clearance to learn about that. So he is no stranger to foreign interference. And I've said again and again, he has shown a willingness to put his party in front of the country. And I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, you've got to put your country first. You got to put the protection of the people of the country, the sanctity and the institutions of the country before your own party. And he has failed to do that. I think it disqualifies him as a candidate for prime minister. I think it clearly shows he does not have the right priorities or the moral certitude to do the right work here.
Jagmeet, we've been speaking for about 17 minutes or so. And I want to introduce our audience, though, to just who you are. Of course, I would love to have you on more in the future, but I'd love for people just to know your background. I mean, how do you go to lead the NDP? Your background was a very compelling story when I learned about it. So I'd love for you just very briefly to just share that story with our people here.
Yeah, sure. It's always a little bit embarrassing to talk about yourself too much. Like my goal is to fight for the people, but I think it's always helpful to know a bit about, I guess, who you're trying to vote for or support. I was born in Canada, born in Toronto. My parents were immigrants from Punjab. My dad studied medicine, and my mom studied education. She was a teacher. They came here and weren't able to get jobs in their field. My mom got a job as a clerk, entry level, minimum wage. My dad was working as a security guard while he was trying to pass his exams to get recognized. My family went through lots of ups and downs. My dad eventually was able to get a good position and did really well. And then he struggled with an addiction that really meant the home was an unstable place. I took care of my kid brother when I went to university. So I was 20. My kid brother's 15. He came to live with me. And it was a tough time. My dad got really sick, and then I had to work multiple jobs to take care of my kid brother while going to school at the same time. I got through school. I ended up going to law school. I wrote a book that shared some of my challenges. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. When I was a kid, I took martial arts classes to protect me against bullying, and then I also suffered abuse there. So I really understand the plight of survivors and what that's like. I know what it's like to live with someone who you love and care for, but it's also someone that's addicted to a substance that can turn into someone who's scary and a monster, even though there's someone you love and they're so generous and kind. I've seen ups and downs financially. My family was very successful, but then lost everything, and my parents went bankrupt, and I had to be the sole income earner for my family for a number of years. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs. And when I was a lawyer and practicing, my brother basically said, I need you to get into politics. And I said, brother, I love fighting for people. I do pro bono work for community groups, but politics is not for me. And he ended up convincing me, even though he's my kid brother. And so I give him a lot of credit for this journey. So he convinced me to get into it because he reminded me what my mom always said, that, you know, we don't want to just survive, we want to thrive. And thriving in our culture means giving back to the people around you, and this belief that we're all one. And that's something that's driven me my whole life, that we're all one. He said, if we're all one, then you got to do everything possible to fight for the people around you and lift them up. And so he eventually convinced me to do it, and I got into politics. I never had a political background. I had a family that was in politics. So I ran for the first time ever at the federal level, so like a congressman. And I came really close and wasn't able to pull it off. And then I ran again provincially. So I got elected provincially. I was provincial, like a state representative for a number of years. I became deputy leader, and then made the plunge into federal politics and became leader federally. And then when we were in politics federally, we were able to use minority governments to get things done. So we got dental care in, which has helped out, like I mentioned, millions of Canadians. Dental care is covered for seniors and for kids, for families that earn $90,000 or less. So you can go to a dentist and your dental bills are covered. That's something that we fought for, we made happen. We fought to bring in pharmacare. So that's free diabetes medication, devices, and birth control. And we were able to bring in better laws to protect workers so that when they go on strike, the boss can't bring in replacement workers or scabs. So we brought in anti-scab legislation. So the journey, I guess, tried to do a little quick summary of some of the political wins and some of the fight. But throughout it all, we were guided by the principle, me and my team and my family, of how do we lift up the people around us, because we are better off when we take care of each other.
Finally, Jagmeet, we know that Donald Trump watches this show. He frequently cites it in his court filings. He blames us for things, and it's all meritless. But we know that him and his team watch this. So if you had a message for him today, what would your message be to Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States?
Well, I'd say when it comes to Canada, let me be very clear. Canadians do not want to be a part of the United States. They're proud of being Canadians. We do not want a for-profit healthcare system where you go bankrupt if you have a heart attack or if you have a cancer diagnosis. We are proud of our country. And if you want to pick a fight with us, it's going to hurt you as well. We don't want that. We want to build a strong relationship where we work together. But I want to send a clear message. If you want to pick a fight with Canada, we're gonna fight back. And that means retaliatory tariffs. That means if you impose harm on Canada, it's also going to be felt in the United States. And we saw that before when they imposed the aluminum and steel tariffs. You impose those tariffs on Canada, we responded, and it hurt Americans. It is not how we build a strong relationship. It's not how we build a good economy. We need to work together. We don't need to be bullying each other, and we're going to fight back. So my message is, don't pick a fight with Canada. It's not a fight that's worth it.
Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP in the House of Commons, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers by next month. Thank you.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.